Praise be to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek refuge with Allah from the evil of our own souls and from our bad deeds. Whomsoever Allah guides will never be led astray, and whomsoever Allah leaves astray, no one can guide. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is His slave and messenger. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
We're back again. I hope you missed us because we missed you too. If you didn't, doesn't matter. We're here anyway. You already know who I am, so I'm not going to make that stupid mistake like I did last time of telling you who I am. It's okay to laugh. You don't have to hold back your laughter. You know, we want this to be a little candid and fun. So this episode, we are just going to do the whole episode freestyle, I think, and just kind of talk about issues we have experienced, because I know I had some stuff on my mind, and so did Raya as well. So go right ahead, sis.
Inshallah, here goes nothing. Inshallah. So, inshallah, Aziza and I wanted to talk about just things that have recently been happening and that we've been seeing and going on, and what we've experienced outside of our Islamic Muslim realm from today prior to like January. Muslims as a whole and individually as well, I think we've just been through a lot. We've been seeing a lot. We're being tested. Our imans are weak, and we need to get on. We need to get on point where we need to be, inshallah.
Inshallah. For people who are not Muslim, I don't want to alienate anybody because I know it comes naturally to us to say certain things. So could you be more specific when you're talking about we need to get our stuff together? What do you mean? Like, what are Muslims doing that implies that their stuff's not together?
Oh, I mean, from the simplest things to like our character, our deen, which is our faith and how we follow Islam, all the way to how we approach one another, how we speak to one another, whether they're being Muslim or not Muslim, our tone, our characteristics, the being lazy with our salat, not rushing to be in the first line of salat. When we are praying in the Jum'ah, which is the congregational salat in the masjid or in your home if you're doing the congregational salat there.
And salat means prayer, right?
Salat means prayer. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I meant to say that.
No, it's fine, because I just want people to know so they're not, what's all these code words?
Yeah.
These words of terror.
You guys all know we pray, or maybe you don't know if you're not Muslim. We pray 5 times a day. And when we talk about our prayer, our salat, that's what I'm referring to is sometimes we're lazy in that. We don't rush to it. We pray it late, or we end up praying 2 prayers at the time of Maghrib, or Maghrib is our evening prayer before the nightly prayer. Those are type of things, and as far as like reading the Quran, are we reading the Quran in the morning when we get up? Are we making our dhikr? Are we reading our Fortress of the Muslim book? Or are we saying all the things we need to say before we go to sleep? Are we taking our shahada, which is our testimony of faith, at night before we sleep? Are we memorizing Quran, or are we going over what it is that we know so that we stay steadfast in that? Inshallah, God willing, that Allah keeps us where we are and moving forward in the straight and narrow path, just as it says in the first surah of the Quran, which is Al-Fatiha, and it says, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, to guide us to the straight path and to keep us on the straight and narrow.
Okay.
Where do you think you are at this point?
What do I think?
Not as you're being Islamically, but like, what have you seen as far as what you're being affected by? I know you've recently moved, and you have a lot going on with the things that you've been seeing there, and treatment with non-Muslims, and just life in general.
You should be asking me what have I not seen.
Hush.
No, it's been very it's been very trying. You know, there's not a large community here, and you need that support, especially with all these things going on. And for all you listeners, I live in the deep south right now. Not gonna say where, but I live in the deep south. The deep south, okay? In a small town, and we have experienced prejudice. No one has said anything to my face, but I can tell it's there. And my husband has talked to other Muslims that have lived here for a long time, and they've said that they can definitely feel the difference, that something's in the air. And just like we were talking about earlier, friends of mine, their children have encountered, unspeakable racism and prejudice. I don't want to put all their business out there, but things that whether you're Muslim or not, you should be appalled at, because people should not treat other people that way, regardless of who they are and what they're doing.
And so that itself has nothing to do with religion.
Yeah, it has to be with being a human being, being a decent person. And we're seeing a lack of that in a lot of different respects. So for me, it's just going internally, going back to the deen, which means, the way of life, for those of you who are not Muslim, and trying to really just focus on that, trying to make myself a better person, because I can't change any of this that's going on around me if I don't start with myself. And in fact, like we talked about last episode with jihad, that's the biggest struggle, fixing yourself first. So that's where I'm at this point. But it just really makes me sad to see the state of Muslims and even the state of non-Muslims.
It's actually, it's really sad, but I think more so than being sad, it's embarrassing.
It is.
Regardless of who it is that you choose to be, religiously or even just as a person. And I'm not going to call out different things or anything like that, but as people, you guys know what I'm talking about. Why do we treat people like this? Like, why is this going on? It's just too much negativity. It's terrible. But, alhamdulillah, all praises to Allah. Allah knows best. I think whether you are Muslim, whether you are non-Muslim, we are all being tested. And some of us know and some of us don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us that know, it's just terrifying and it's stressful, because you have to deal with these people who don't see what you see because they're not where you're at, whether it's because they were guided by Allah or because they were not guided by Allah.
What have been some of your own personal experiences? Like being a woman and coming to Islam, and coming from a Christian background, because I think that's the biggest thing. Because with me, I still have issues with my family. I mean, I'm not saying that I have a problem with them, but they have a problem with me.
Right. For me, so when I first came to Islam, I didn't know that I was going to become Muslim. And I'm going to tell you that because it didn't hit me until well after it happened. Like, I was making salat in Arabic when I was looking back at what had happened to me, or the change in life that I experienced. And I say that because I was on my way to the Eid prayer, and I was invited. And I got there, and literally, like 30 seconds of within parking the car, I was just like, boom, I'm going to take my Shahada. I didn't think about it. I didn't know about it. I didn't know A plus B equals whatever in Islam. I didn't know anything. All I knew was what I knew as being an outsider of Islam and from the Christian standpoint about Islam and about Muslims. But I didn't know anything negative. Everything that I knew and that I heard about Muslims was positive. So that part was different. Afterwards, I started covering, but I didn't start covering as a proper hijabi, meaning I didn't wear like the proper Islamic attire for Muslim women because it takes time. It comes in stages. It's not something you just jump into. Some sisters have come to that point and they do that, but for me it wasn't that way. So I just started wearing the hijab, which would be a headscarf or whatever. And my parents they didn't question it because they know that it was from the book, meaning that it was from the Abrahamic faith, and that they knew what I was doing was right because I was following what they seen in photos and what they were told in Christianity about Mary, alayhi salam. And I kept doing it, and they were like, why do you keep doing this? I was like, Mom, I'm just doing what's right. I'm just doing what's right. I never went to them and said, oh, I became Muslim and this is why. Why? Because I had talked to a sheikh here. You guys know I'm in Colorado, so I can say that, but I talked to the sheikh and I said, look, this is my parents' viewpoint, and I've read this about Islam that I'm posted. My Jannah is under the feet of my mom, and I don't want to disappoint her by going to her and making her crazy and saying, look, I'm not going to be a Christian because I found something that I feel is more complete than what I've seen and what I've experienced and what I've read and what I know about Christianity. So I just lived out my life. And my mom started taking classes about Muslims and about Islam, and she started reading books and started asking questions. And I just answered them the best way that I could. And I said, they're going to accept me or they're not going to accept me. Then I traveled. I took a trip in Morocco, and before I left, my mom said, I know we've been treating you really different because you've been being more respectful to yourself, you've been being more modest, and these things, but she said, we want you to know before you go. If anything happens to you and you don't come back, we're your family, we're here for you, we love you. And that was it. That was the last day or hard time I ever had with my family, alhamdulillah. Yeah, recently I still have had some hard times, but I held to my faith. I held to Allah, because if they would have put me on the street, I still would have just had Islam. And I would have been able to find someone or some place to go. I believe in that if I would have needed it. But alhamdulillah, I didn't need it. My family was still here. I could still pray in my room. I could still go in the masjid and these type of things that I've seen. And I've heard so many horror stories from Muslim women whose families have thrown them out on the street, who've called them names, who've called them terrorists, many things. I'm not saying that I haven't experienced that and that my Islamic journey has been peachy keen, because it hasn't. I have family members who don't like it, who don't speak to me. I have friends who I've lost, who really weren't my friends in the first place. I've been called every bad name in the book for becoming a Muslim. And I never let that shake me. I just had to stay steadfast and keep my head down and keep it moving and know that Allah is with me through everything that I experience. And like it says in Surah Al-Baqarah, the last 3 or 4 ayahs, I believe, maybe if I'm quoting it right, that Allah will never put on you more than you can bear.